Well, voters are heading to the polls today as critical primary elections take place in both Florida and New York. Races in both states could have major national implications for Democrats.
That's right. In Florida, Congressman Charlie Crist and Nikki Fried are vying for the spot to take on Republican Governor Ron DeSantis in November. They're behind, though, in polling. Meanwhile, in New York, redistricting is pitting two current House Democrats against each other. For more on all of this, CBS News politics digital reporter Aaron Navarro joins us from Miami with the latest in Florida. And Sarah Ewall-Wice is right here in New York, following the latest here in New York. A warm welcome to you both. Aaron, let's begin with you. There's a lot of focus on the Florida gubernatorial election. So what are you hearing on the Democratic race between Charlie Crist and Nikki Fried, and how their polling momentum may change to have a shot against DeSantis in November?
Hi, thanks for having me. So as you said, Crist and Fried are the lead frontrunners for that Democratic primary for governor. They have traded sharp elbows when it comes to issues like abortion rights and environmental policies. But throughout the primary, Crist has led Fried in fundraising, polls, and endorsements. I would note, though, last month in their only debate, Crist and Fried were united in taking shots against Governor DeSantis and what they see as his higher political ambitions. When it comes to beating DeSantis in November, it seems a bit unlikely. He has raised tons of money, over $160 million since 2021. So that already creates a cash gap when it comes to him and whoever wins the Democratic primary. And since the jump, the Morning Consult has had DeSantis above a 53% approval rating. That was in last July. But I would note in 2018, he only won by less than half a percentage point. So obviously, it's a different political climate now. Republicans seem to have the advantage in the midterms in November, but Democrats have shown some signs of energy, especially after the Dobbs decision. So this will be a race to watch in November.
So, Sarah, here in New York, we have Congressional District 12, I believe, right? Yes. Which is, the title is When Redistricting Goes Horribly Wrong for Your Party. Because here we have two longtime lawmakers who would have been firmly established in their districts, and now they're competing in a brand new district against each other and a newcomer.
Exactly. So Gerald Nadler and Carolyn Maloney both have been in office since the early 90s. Of course, what happened is they were doing the redistricting. The Democrats' drawn maps got thrown out. A court-appointed expert, I'm doing this the condensed version.
Yeah, but it's good.
The court-appointed expert ended up drawing up the map, and it ended up combining the east side of Manhattan and the west side of Manhattan into one district that both of these two longtime Congress members represent. They're not just members of Congress, they're both leading members of Congress. One is the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, the other the chair of the House Oversight Committee. And so they're going head to head. And then we have Suraj Patel also joining the race, talking about generational divide and needing new blood there. So that all three of them are in this race. It was cordial for some time. Things have gotten a little more testy, obviously, as we hit primary day. Moving up towards today, it kind of got a little more testy there. But with that said, I was on the Upper East Side and the Upper West Side yesterday, and folks up there, it might seem strange if you're not from New York, you're not paying attention in New York City. They think it's two separate worlds on the East and West Side, and they are not happy about these districts being combined and their longtime members of Congress, of course, being combined into one, though both have been praised by members of New York for their leadership.
So yeah, somebody said East versus West. Was it East versus West? And
East side, West Side.
Yeah, I just kept on thinking of either West Side Story or something. I was like, there's a musical in this.
And they do have personalities. Those neighborhoods have two very distinct personalities, so it is kind of funny.
But then is this an opening for Suraj Patel? Might he AOC this thing?
That is a really interesting thing to watch. I did speak to a number of folks up there that were definitely talking about wanting to vote for someone who's younger and newer. And there was one voter specifically who said, I love both members of Congress. They've done an amazing job for New York, but this is the moment where I guess it's time to potentially bring somebody new in because I don't want to choose between the two of them. But, the polling does show Jerry Nadler ahead right now. It'll be interesting to see. We don't expect the results tonight.
Interesting. Okay, let's bounce back to Florida. Aaron, Governor Ron DeSantis signed a Senate Bill 90 into law. And what it does is it restricts voting by mail. Florida is really part of a group of states that have adopted new election laws. What sort of impact is this likely to have on today's primaries?
Yeah, so just to start by expanding on what this bill does, it restricts the open hours for ballot drop boxes to only when polling centers are open. It requires a driver's license number or last 4 digits of your social security number if you want to vote by mail, and it limits the number of mail ballots one can drop off before or on election day. Now, this could result in less voters using that mail option, that drop box option, but as of right now, the mail ballot turnout is actually consistent with what we saw in 2018. About 1.5 mail ballots have been returned as of this Sunday. That is down from the 1.6 million number at this point in the 2018 race. And a bit under half of those 1.5 million mail ballots this year are from Democrats. But I would say the impact of this law could really be felt in 2024. During the pandemic, Florida allowed for mail ballots to be sent out to voters 2 general elections in a row. After the pandemic, when this new bill, SB 90, was instituted, that cut that automatic sending of mail ballots to after the 2022 general election. So when you look at 2024, when lots of voters who may be expecting mail ballots in November or in the primary in 2024 and they don't get one, that's really where this law could take an impact.
And there are also in these races certain issues that are bringing people out, mobilizing folks. Sarah, for you, the race in New York's Hudson Valley is significant, especially for abortion rights. Explain why that is.
Yeah, so this is actually a special election going on in New York's 19th congressional district. The Democrat who's running there, Pat Ryan, has really leaned into protecting a woman's right to choose, and he's been running messages on it. He's been campaigning on it. Essentially, they're looking and saw what happened in Kansas with the amendment on the ballot there just earlier this month, and saying that that could energize the Democratic base. This district specifically is one where Republicans won in 2016, President Trump won in 2016, but then in the 2018 midterms, it flipped to blue, and then it stayed blue for 2020, but the margins have been tighter. With that said, something to know is this special election is for the appointed lieutenant governor. He was taken out, so they have a special election, so it only runs, this seat will only exist up through November, so it's a very short little race.
Wow.
But the Republican has been talking more about inflation. Mark Marliano was talking about more inflation, gas prices, food, but abortion has been front and center in a ton of ads up there, and it'll be interesting to see because this race, because of what happened in 2016, 2018, it's kind of a swing district. So they think this could be something to see what happens in the November election elsewhere when you look at
like a measurement of how mobilizing a factor for what suburban women is the abortion issue.
Exactly. Does this drive turnout for Democrats? Does it excite turnout for Democrats as it did in Kansas? And also not just Democrats, independents, and potentially some more moderate Republicans as well.
Aaron, of course, with the midterm elections, all focus is really on what's going to happen with the Senate. Will Democrats be able to maintain some sort of power, or will the Republicans flip it? And so, surprisingly, Florida is sort of considered a bit of a toss-up by Democrats. Like, there's a possibility there?
I would say it leans Republican, but it's definitely something Democrats have their eye on. Congresswoman Val Demings, who is likely going to be the Democratic nominee against Senator Marco Rubio. She has a lot of qualities that Democrats in Florida like. She has raised tons of money, over $45 million. She has a good profile in Orlando, so she has her base there. And she was a former vice presidential candidate, potentially, for Joe Biden in 2020. So she has that recognition amongst Democrats. I would note she has outspent Rubio by $11 million when it comes to ads already. Wow. But I would say Rubio is still the favorite in November, especially when you look at the political environment right now, his ties to some of the communities, especially in Miami here. So Democrats may be looking at other states like Pennsylvania, Georgia as closer toss-ups. But if Demings can continue to outraise and outspend to an extent Rubio going into November, this is something they definitely will keep a closer eye on.
Should be interesting. As we have learned, there are twists and turns all the way to Election Day. Aaron and Sarah, thank you so much.
Thank you both.